All right, campers. So we're going to make a hood on our hoodie. This is the most complicated part of the process, but here's the good part. You've already covered most of the skills you're going to need. So it's kind of like song lyrics, because they rhyme. They're not exactly the same, but you get to the end of the lyric and you kind of know what word's coming up next because you expect it to rhyme. So you're going to find that some of the commands are very much like that. They look a lot like and behave a lot like the things you've already been doing. Before I get started, I want to show you where you're going. This is roughly the shape you're looking for. This is the front of the hoodie, the straight line. This is the back of the hoodie. This is what the neckline of a traditional hoodie looks like. And that's the part that most students can't visualize right off the front. But that's what you're looking, is that sort of S curve on the bottom. All right, so let's work through step by step how we do this. So we're going to start with a rectangle. Rectangle is easiest. I'm going to go here and long click on, again, the fifth item down, which is the internal polygon line, and I'm going to choose internal rectangle. Oops, sorry. See, I messed it up already. I'm going to go here to the fourth one down and choose rectangle. I'm sorry. We're making a brand new piece, so we need to use the fourth one down. The fifth one down is if you were making a rectangle inside the garment. We're going to use the fourth one down, make a rectangle, and I'm just going to kind of put it over here like yay big. Okay? I'm not fussing a whole lot with it, but there it is. Okay, so I got a rectangle. And I'm not worried about my 3D window just yet. Let's work in the 2D window for now. There's a couple of things that we got to do. So the first thing we got to do is we're going to take this point up here and we're going to convert that to a curve point. And converting it to a curve point means that we can have that nice rounded corner. Okay? So I'm going to go to my Edit Pattern tool. Okay? My Edit Pattern tool. Second one down, Edit Pattern. Okay, and in here I'm going to right click on that right hand point, on that top right point. All right, and what am I going to do? I'm going to convert it to a curve point. And here's the thing I want to do. I want to do a convert only. Okay, convert only. And when I do that, look what happens. My point disappeared and instead I have a beautiful curve here. Well, I don't know about beautiful, but it's a curve. Okay, to monkey about with that curve now, I can use a tool that I've used before. If we go down, long press on Edit Pattern, Edit Curvature. With Edit Curvature, remember, we use this to modify the curvature of our cuffs. Okay, so I can make it look a little bit more the way I want it. Or if I want it to really hang off the back, I can kind of pull it out and do that. Okay, until I think that I like that curvature. Obviously, we can't see exactly what it's going to look like yet. We'll make changes once it's sewn into the garment. But for right now, I think that's about what I want. Okay, so I've drawn a rectangle and I've removed that corner point by converting it to a curve point and doing a convert only. Okay, the next thing I need to do is, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, this bottom line down here needs to be a curve. Okay, how do I make that bottom line a curve? There's a whole bunch of ways you can do this. Let me tell you my quick and dirty way to do it, okay? I'll almost guarantee you this is not the textbook correct way, but it's the easiest way that I've found, is I go to the Edit Pattern tool, okay, and I go to the Edit Curvature tool, okay, and I just grab this line here and I just drag it a little bit and I let go. Guess what? Now it's a curve. Okay? It might not be the curve I want, but it's a curve. And that's what I'm going for, is I just needed to change from a straight line to a curve. All right, cool. Now what can we do with this curve? Well, we got to turn it into that S curve, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called Bezier handles to do that, because that's the easiest way to do that. So I'm going to go back to my Edit Pattern tool, again, the second one down, and I'm going to choose Edit Curve Point. Okay? And when I have edit curve point chosen, look at these Bezier handles that show up. If you've never used Bezier handles before, this is what they do, right? They modify that curve by pulling the handle, right? So now I can move this point up. I can relax this a little bit, and there's my S-curve shape, right? So all I'm doing is dragging these handles around, move this back point higher, because I want it higher. As a matter of fact, I want it out too. Whoops, don't mind that. I hit right click by accident. Move the point where I want it, and then move the handle. Like, the longer you pull the handle, the sharper the curve, right? And the directionality of the handle matters. So this is about where I want it, and there's my nice curve. And now I have my half my hoodie. Okay, half my hood. So far not too bad. Almost everything is right here under this edit pattern tool. Edit pattern, edit curvature, edit curve point, and then under edit pattern, right clicking to convert to curve point. Okay? So now what do I want to do? Well, I want to make it symmetrical. Now I need to go up to my transform pattern tool, top tool, select the transform pattern tool, right click, and choose symmetric pattern. Symmetric pattern. Okay, there's my other half. My other half. Ta-da! And now I have two halves of a hoodie. Kind of looks like wings. All right. We're in very good shape here. This is where we want to be. All right. Now we're going to move over into the 3D window, because the next part is easier to do in the 3D window. You must do it in the 3D window, really. And this is why I had you guys do your pockets first. If you remember your pockets hanging in midair, look at those two hoodie pieces just sort of hanging in midair. She looks like she's got a giant moth mask on or something. Okay, so what do we got to do with these pieces? Well, we've got to turn them 90 degrees, all right? We've got to turn them so that instead of being flat out in front of her face, they are on either side of her head. Okay, so I'm going to give myself like a 45-degree angle-ish, something here so I can see. I'm going to select one of these pieces. Excuse me, and when I do, I'm going to get this gimbal. And the part of the gimbal that I want is the green line. The green line goes around, and watch what happens if I click and drag with that green line. It's turning that pattern piece. It's turning the pattern piece. I'm just going to let go where I want it, where I think I want it. Yeah, I think I want it a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So I've gone and turned that pattern piece. Now I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn this one. Hello. Where's my gimbal? There it is. Thank you. I clicked off. I clicked back on again. There's my gimbal. All right. Again, the green line. Now I'm going to turn it the opposite way. Okay. I'm not too fussed that it's crooked. I just want to make sure that it faces front and back. And it does. Awesome. Okay, cool. Click off. And now what I'm going to do is just take both of those pieces and drag them back so that they're approximately over her body where they go. You remember we did this with pockets, where we were manipulating the pockets until they were about where we wanted them to be, right? That's about where I wanted to be. I'm going to move this one up a little bit because it's easier for me to see my sewing if I move it up. Okay, and they're approximately where I want them to be. Move this one forward just a little bit. I'm not too fussed that they're kind of crooked there. I'm not fussed about that, okay? All right, and now we're going to sew them together. Now, we can sew in the 2D window, but in this case, it's actually easier to sew in the 3D window. So if you remember, the segment sewing tool is always the second one in the sewing collection. So here we have edit sewing, the second one is segment sewing, and the third one is free sewing. So we're going to use that segment sewing again. Segment sewing, I'm going to sew this segment right here, that big curve, and and I'm going to sew it to the other curve. And remember to keep your sewing lines straight. If you come down here, they're crisscrossed. You don't want that. You want to keep them nice and straight. And I just click, and there it is. Okay, so the back of that hood is sewn together. Okay? All right, slightly harder part. Let's sew the neckline. So the neckline, we're actually going to sew this segment to this segment and this segment. And that's where it gets to be a little bit more difficult, because you're sewing the bottom of the hoodie to the front of the garment neck opening and the back of the garment neck opening. So the easier way to do that, rather than doing segment sewing, is to do what we call free sewing. So here's free sewing. How free sewing works a lot like zippers. You're going to find this works a lot like your zipper tool. So we're going to start at the front, and I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to go to the back and see it coloring just like the zipper tool did. When I get to the corner, double click, and there's that line of sewing. Okay, where do I want to sew it to? Well, start at the front, click there, and then I'm going to have to move her around a bit to see what I'm doing here. Keep going along this line. Oops, where are you? Where are you? There it is. When I go to the end where I want it to end, double click to complete, double click. Hi. Hello. All right, if the computer's not working for you, it's not working for me either. Of course, because I'm making a video. All right, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to start again with my segment sewing. Come on, you. Free sewing, start, end, double click. Start, end, double click. Are you there? There we go. Okay. So it remembered, and you can see that this entire seam here is sewn to the front piece and to the back piece, and all of my seam lines are nice and straight. All right, we're going to repeat that process on the other side. This time, I want you to work the first time, stupid program. All right, free sewing. Start at the front, and in the back, double click. Start at the front, go to the back, right there, double click. Come on. Okay, I don't know why that's not working. We'll hit escape. We'll try it again. All right, I'm going to try it from this angle. All right, start, end, double click, start, end, double click. There it is. All right, had to double click about 4 times. All right, but I have my sewing lines are there. They're nice and straight. That hoodie is all sewn properly. I'm just going to look really quickly and make sure that these sewing lines from the hood back here go behind her head, and they do go behind her head. Awesome. And I'm ready now to turn gravity on, and we have a hood. Oh my goodness, look at the size of that hood. All right. Gravity off, I can now work with it. So I can come over here with my edit pattern tool, and I can bring this line down. I can make it shorter, right? Gravity on, gravity off. Oop, her hood fell off her head. Darn it. Before I do gravity on, let's move this piece up a little bit and this piece up a little bit. Gravity on. It's still falling off her head. Once the hoodie falls off the head, it's really hard to get it back on again. It's a big pain in the butt. So I'm going to move this forward so that hopefully it stays on her head. Gravity on. Stay on her head. Stay on her head, darn ya. All right, well, don't mind me. My hoodie fell right off her head. All right, but as you're working with it, don't make your hoodie so large and you won't have that problem. You can also pull the hoodie forward. Let's go back a couple of undos. Couple of undos. Okay. Undo. There we go. The other thing you can do is while you're in this stage, and it's still staying on her head, yeah, undo. While it's still staying on her head, pull it forward, right? This is part of my problem here, is it's not forward enough, so let's move it more forward. All right. And gravity on. There we go. Now that's going to stay on her head. Okay, so while we're in this mode here, make sure you pull it forward, right? And then as you're modifying and changing it, it will still stay on her head. All right. But that is how you make a hood, okay? You make a rectangle, you remove one of the corners, turn that into a curve, you go back down to the bottom, you turn the bottom line into a curve, and you make that nice S curve. You can do some segment sewing across the back, and then you can do some free sewing in the 3D tool across the bottom. It does give you a little bit of grief at times, and sometimes, honestly, you just got to be patient with it. Probably half of my issue in this video is that I'm just not being patient with it, because it takes a little while for the system to do that initial line of sewing and figure out how the fabric should behave based on that line of sewing. Okay? But yeah, that's how to do a hoodie. And that is the last part of our hoodie project.